Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the difference between a 90-10 argon CO2 mixture and the much more common 75% argon 25% CO2 mixture that's often found for a lot of MIG welding applications. So this is something I've had quite a few questions on over the years, and we're going to be doing a little bit of welding with both. We'll do some short circuit MIG welding with each and also some spray arc with each. And the long and short of this video, from my own experience, I really prefer either 90-10 or 80-20 over a 75-25 mixture. The reason is that 75-25 is really only good for short circuit MIG welding. You can definitely spray arc with it. I've heard from a lot of folks that say, oh, you can't spray arc with what I refer to as C25. Oh, you can't spray arc with C25 because of this reason or that reason. And that's not really true, because the difference between short circuit and spray arc welding is with short circuit, the way it works is, you have your weld puddle and you're holding your gun back here. What happens is the wire comes out and it sticks into the puddle and physically short circuits, hence the name and hence the buzzing sound, because this happens incredibly rapidly. And and that's how that works. But with spray arc, what happens is, instead of the wire going into the puddle, the wire liquefies midair going into the puddle. So as you can see, it's really more of a matter of how much heat essentially you're putting into that wire. If you want to spray arc, you need to put enough heat into it so it melts midair. It doesn't really have that much to do with the gas. You can definitely spray arc weld with C25, but it's not very smooth. There's a lot of spatter. It's just overall not really a recommended thing. However, with 90-10, because of the higher argon content, it sprays a lot smoother. It goes in a lot nicer. It's just an all-around better experience. And the advantage with either 80-20 or 90-10 is you can also do short circuit MIG welding with it as well. So for those reasons, I like those gases. However, we have a cylinder of each, and let's get set up to try them out. And just like that, we should be ready to roll. You can see we're about 20.5 volts and 322 inches a minute with our 90-10 gas doing some short circuit MIG. Alright, so we're still running the 90-10 gas. Now we're going to do some, let's do some full spray arc for something a little different. This will really show off the advantages of this gas, which really isn't much more expensive than the 75-25. Let's see, we'll set this to about, it's 200 thousandths approximately thickness setting, and let's do some heavier welding here. Keep in mind, these are the machine's recommended settings. I did not tweak the 1/8" settings in any way, shape, or form, nor have I tweaked these. All I've done is told this machine what process I want and how thick material, and it's doing all the rest. Sounds like it needs a little extra juice, so I'll just give it an extra 1.5 volts here. But as you can see, the factory settings are really, really close. Basically zero spatter. I see a little bit at the start of this weld, but other than that, like 1 dot here and 1 dot here from when we were actually welding. So it's an incredibly clean process, and it's just plain and simple runs smooth, and it runs nice with the 90-10 gas. So now we're going to switch this over to 75-25, and I think you'll be able to see and feel and hear a difference on each of these types of welding. Alright, so learned quite a few things today, and really the more interesting thing that's on my mind is this machine in spray arc with 7525 actually welds better than any other machine I've ever used in spray arc with 7525. On most machines I've used, there is a huge night and day difference between the two gases in spray arc. Like any of the other, literally any other MIG welder in the entire shop, there's a huge difference. This one, of course, since that's what I chose to make the video with, hardly any. But normally what happens is when you go into spray arc with 7525, it's a lot more poppy, it doesn't sound nearly as smooth, there's a lot more spatter, it's more of a globular transfer, if you will, than a true traditional spray arc. But with this machine, you know, there is still a noticeable difference. The spray arc 7525 welds, they've got a little more spatter, they don't look quite as nice. The really surprising difference, and this is the part I wasn't expecting, came in the short circuit welding. Because when we think short circuit MIG welding, we normally think, you know, 7525 is the way to go. According to my highly unscientific test here, that really might not be the case, because if you look at these side by side, same exact piece of material, same exact settings on the welder down to 1/10 of an amp and a single inch per minute of wire feed speed, same exact spool of wire, same everything except for the shielding gas cylinder. There's a noticeable difference. You know, the 9010 weld, it lays in there flatter. In my opinion, it looks quite a bit nicer. There's a lot less spatter. In the 7525 weld, it's in my opinion not a bad looking weld, but if you compare them side by side, the 9010 really does look quite a bit nicer, and the 9010 is, again, normally much better with spray arc. On this machine, only marginally better with spray arc. But yeah, regardless, you know, I hope this video has answered a lot of questions that a lot of folks have. You know, I know there's a lot of different shielding gas mixes out there, and there's a lot of uncertainty about that, especially when you first get into welding, because it's just plain and simple a lot of information to digest, and if you ask 10 different people, they'll probably tell you 12 different things. But for me, personally, I haven't really used much 7525. I got a cylinder of 8020 once, and then I decided I wasn't going to go back to 7525, and I did just for you guys to make this video, so you know, we'll use it up. Really the only reason I could recommend using 7525, especially after this test, is if you're running a dual shield wire that specifically calls for 7525. Some of the stuff I've used allows you to use 8010 or in some cases even 9010 gas, but some gas shielded flux core wire specifically calls for the 7525. Other than that, for honestly any type of MIG welding, at least on steel that I've done, I'm sticking to 9010 in the future. It sounds a little bit different, and in my opinion it works really well. So like I said, just a short little unscientific educational video for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's answered some questions. So have a nice night, everybody.